live webinar on how to invest in cash flowing real estate using your 401k IRA. And I'm Ryan Twomey, one of the co-founders of Tier Capital Partners, and joined here by my other panelists, Lucas Ravanis, my partner, and the VP of Sales for Horizon Trust, Claudia Guzman. Now, as you all probably know, for a while now, most people have become frustrated with the underperformance and the lack of control over retirement accounts, and concerns about market volatility and rising inflation have become very common due to economic trends in recent years. And on top of that, many wish they could diversify into a real tangible asset such as real estate, but don't often have the cash, or maybe their funds are inaccessible because until retirement, which is now 59 and a half. So additionally, the idea of investing in real estate and becoming a landlord is also unappealing, as you've all heard those landlord horror stories. And to be frank, at least Lucas and I know all too well, it just sucks. Taking care of tenants, maintenance issues, and other calls at late night just takes time away from friends, family, hobbies, and things that actually matter. And when we invest in real estate, the ultimate goal is to earn enough passive income from building your portfolio to essentially buy back your time and attain time freedom. So currently, the average 401k and IRA earn about 5 to 8% a year after fees. And if you take inflation into account, it's even less. And in fact, most people don't even know what they're actually invested in with all these mutual fund accounts and various different traditional investments that are offered. This makes for a long road to retirement where you essentially hope and pray that you have enough to retire by 60 years old with enough of a nest egg to maintain your current lifestyle. And sadly, more than half of Americans never actually have enough to retire comfortably, and in most cases have to downgrade their lives when retirement comes. Now, tonight we plan to address all of these issues with one strategy, providing a way for you to access old retirement accounts to invest in cash flowing real estate and get all the benefits of real estate ownership without the hassle of being a landlord. And most W-2 and 1099 employees aren't really aware of what we're going to be covering tonight, and that's that they can roll over their old retirement accounts into these SDIRAs, or self-directed IRAs as they're called, giving them freedom to invest in more lucrative assets, take full control of their investment decisions, and benefit from much higher returns than they would be by letting them sit in traditional investments. And so we're going to be covering everything you need to know about this investment vehicle, going through the benefits, how to get started, some common questions our investors have asked us in the past, and then we'll open up to a Q&A for anyone that has further questions for Claudia, Lucas, or myself. And with that being said, I'll pass things over to Claudia, who is the expert in utilizing self-directed IRAs to invest in these institutional quality real estate assets to set yourself up for a more comfortable retirement. So Claudia, thanks for joining us tonight on behalf of Horizon, and I'll hand it off to you to introduce yourself, and we'll just get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. My name is Claudia Guzman, and for the past 3 years, I have been here at Horizon Trust. Before that, I was at another company for 13 years, setting up these kind of retirement accounts. When I started to realize how these retirement accounts can help investors, and how a lot of people don't even know that you can do this, it really piqued my interest, and I have done my whole career kind of doing that. We have set up over thousands of accounts in the last 3 years since I've been here, and it's only growing every time. And what we do is we are a passive custodian, which means that we don't give any investment advice and we don't tell you what to put your money in. So we kind of partner up with companies like Brian's and Lucas's, where they have the investment, and all we do is provide the vehicle so that you can go ahead and take these retirement accounts and put them into a syndication deal or any kind of deal that you choose. So I'm going to go over how the process works, what kind of retirement accounts are eligible to be transferred over, and how it works with Horizon Trust. So let me go ahead and share my screen. You guys able to see my screen?
Yep, should be good.
Yep, perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So what is a self-directed IRA or 401k? So we set up IRAs. It's an individual retirement account, and basically it's if you have an IRA with any other company. What a lot of people don't know is that if you have it with a Merrill Lynch or a Vanguard and you have been investing all these years over there, what the IRS let you do back in the 70s is they set up they allowed what we call self-directed retirement accounts. So what that means is that custodians like Horizon Trust can set up the account roll over the funds from that qualified account into a qualified account here at Horizon Trust. And then you can decide what alternative investment you can go ahead and put those funds into. A lot of these companies will tell you that they have self-directing abilities as well. But what that means is that they'll let you pick your own stocks from the account. It doesn't actually mean that you can buy into a syndication deal or buy a rental property or buy precious metals that you can go ahead and not hold yourself. You still have to go through a depository because you can't actually hold anything in your possession. But that's what an alternative investment is and what Horizon Trust does. So that's the difference between self-directing in one of these traditional accounts and then self-directing in an alternative investment account like Horizon Trust. Who qualifies for a self-directed IRA or 401k? It would be anybody that has an IRA with any other company. So if you have a qualified account with another custodian or another company, that can go ahead and get rolled over. Something else that can get rolled over is if you have a 401k with a previous employer. It does have to be a previous employer. So if you worked for Walmart for 40 years and you had, $200,000 at Walmart that you invested while you were in it as an employee, once you leave that company, you can go ahead and take that 401k and put it into another company so that you can direct it yourself, so that you can go ahead and manage it. So if you have a previous employer where you were contributing into the 401k, we can go ahead and take that money over and set up an account here as an IRA, and we would go ahead and open that, and you can self-direct it that way. It does have to be a previous employer because companies like, well, it doesn't even have to be a big company. Any company, while they're investing in you, they don't want you to take that money and invest it somewhere else. So they will have you keep it with the 401k company that they have the plan with. And then once you leave that company, then you can go ahead and transfer it over to a company like ours. So any IRA, any 401k that you're not employee of, a 403b, 457, all of these are government agencies. So if you were a school teacher, a TSP is if you were in the military, so any government agencies that you're no longer with, if you're retired from the military, there's what the government calls TSP. You can take that and you can roll it over into an account like the one that we have here at Horizon Trust. And then from there, you can start self-directing as long as it's from one qualified account to the next qualified account, which is what we do. And that's why we're a custodian, and it has to be governed in a custodial company like ourselves. Self-directed options. So this is what you can go ahead and invest in. So there's all sorts of alternative investments that people have done throughout the years. People get really creative with it. There's a couple of prohibited transactions, like you can't take $100,000 from your IRA and then partner with your father or your mother. Anybody in your linear heritage, you cannot go ahead and do any kind of investing together. But if you wanted to go ahead and get into real estate, like the syndication deals that you have, you wanted to go ahead and buy an LLC, or your IRA buy an LLC, then that LLC can diversify and have checkbook control to, put $10,000 in a syndication deal, put $10,000 into a promissory note. You can kind of do all sorts of alternative investing and kind of diversify that way. You can do annuities, you can buy precious metals, limited partnership, everything on this list, and there are other things. What we do here at Horizon Trust is we have a department that actually looks at every investment and makes sure that it's compliant with the IRS. So Lucas knows this. He has to send in a PPM so that we can go ahead and make sure that that's compliant. So we will certify that before it even goes into a direction of investment, which means that we'll send out your funds into a company, an investment company. So that's part of the process here at Horizon Trust. We'll verify the alternative investment is compliant with the IRS before we put your funds into anything that might be prohibited. The checkbook LLC, this is something that a lot of clients love. Once you have your IRA funds here at Horizon Trust, they like to have control of those funds even further than having alternative investing. So what they do is they set up a checkbook LLC. the LLC would be owned by your IRA, and at that point, you would be the manager of the LLC. So you would have your own bank account, you would have a debit card, checks, and you can do your investments from there directly. So if you wanted to put $10,000 into a syndication deal and then do something else with everything else, you can go ahead and kind of diversify that way. The only thing that you have to be careful is that all funds have to go back into the LLC to keep them qualified. So you can't take any distributions, you can't take any payroll, anything like that. Everything has to be managed for the LLC that is owned by the IRA or the Roth IRA. So everything flows up into the Horizon Trust account. And then at the time that you're going to take a distribution because you're of age or you wanted to go ahead and start taking money, then that checkbook LLC will send money back into Horizon Trust, and then Horizon Trust will issue a distribution. And all of that is what is reported to the IRS at that point. So it does have to flow correctly to make sure that everything stays qualified. Syndications is what we talk about. So I wanted to show kind of how you can go ahead and save on taxes when you do a syndication deal, because everything is qualified, right? So you're not having to report any gains at the point that you have the money in the syndication. All profits are going to go back into the IRA or the Roth IRA. If you have a Roth IRA, then everything is tax-free for the duration of the account. You never have to pay taxes on that because you pay taxes at the point that you put the money into the Roth IRA. So anything that grows that in the syndication deal, all of those profits will be tax-free. Now, an IRA or a 401k is tax deferred. And what that means is that you're gonna pay taxes at the point of distribution, but when the syndication is making all of these profits, you're not paying any taxes at that point. So you'll pay taxes once you take the distributions when you're of age. So in 5 years, you put $100,000 as your investment amount in this syndication example. One of them you're going to hold for 5 years, or the other one they're going to hold for 10 years, 15% annualized interest profit. And then it shows how much you're going to go ahead, how much you're growing your retirement account. We have a really cool feature on our website that's called the compound interest calculator. If you ever wanted to go ahead and run numbers, just go to horizontrust.com and you can put the numbers on there, and you'll see how your retirement account can grow based on what the investment company is showing you. So you can go ahead and see it on there. It's a really neat feature. Does anybody have any questions on this slide particularly? Perfect. We wanted to go over basic wealth rules. Obviously, this is something that you want to be consistent. You want to put your money into something that you are comfortable with and that you've done your due diligence on. We are, like I said, a passive custodian. So doing a lot of research and making sure that you are comfortable with the investment is super important with any IRA investing. It's important with any investing. So this doesn't have to be just the IRA alternative investing, but just know that you want to invest in your network and knowledge and make sure that you're doing your own research and use the rules and vehicles of the IRS. This is super important because obviously we are the ones that are going to go over the compliance part of it. So if you have questions on what the rules are, or if you're doing something that's correct, all you have to do is contact us and we'll be able to tell you if that's something that's allowable in your IRA. That's what you have us for. That's what the custodians are for. We won't give you any investment advice or any tax advice. So if you're looking for us to give you any kind of tax advice, we won't be able to do that, but we will be able to review documents, make sure that everything is compliant, make sure that you're keeping all of your funds qualified. This is the process to actually get your IRA transferred and started here at Horizon Trust. The whole process is going to take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks. So what we're doing is we would start the application process, and then we would go ahead and set you up with an appointment with a liquidation specialist here at Horizon Trust, and they would call your resigning custodian. So let's say you had your funds over at Merrill Lynch. We would call Merrill Lynch with you on the phone. They would go ahead and transfer the funds over. We would send all the paperwork that Merrill Lynch is requesting so that they can go ahead and release the funds. And then we're going to be calling them every 2 to 3 days to make sure that the funds are processed. The biggest issue that we have sometimes is that companies want to hold on to the funds. So having a liquidation specialist that walks you through the process has shown to be the most successful, because then we're actually keeping up with everybody and making sure that they're releasing the funds. At the point that the funds are released, then you can go ahead and start the direction of investment process, which would be sending the funds from here to the investment company. So at that point, most of the time, we already have the investment documents here. We would have already released that it's okay to make that investment. And then we would just do an internal direction of investment paperwork that would basically say, hey, I allow you to send $100,000 over to this investment company. And then we would release the funds over. Once you start making interest payments, those interest payments will go back into your IRA here at Horizon Trust or your Roth IRA, and then you can go ahead and reinvest, and you can do it all over again. So that's how you grow your retirement account. You put in 100,000, you start getting interest payments from it. You go ahead and reinvest it, then you do it again, and rinse and repeat. That's why people love the checkbook LLC, because they can do it as soon as they get the money, they can reinvest it. But we are here and we'll be able to do that as well. We just have to have the paperwork in and be able to have the direction. But if you have your checkbook LLC, then you can do it yourself. And then when you need to take distributions as when you're of age, then you would just come to us and fill out some paperwork, and we would go ahead and do the distributions. And if you have any other questions, or I know that Lucas has some questions that he's going to be asking me. If you have any questions after that, you can email me directly and I will be able to answer any of them for you.
Awesome, Claudia. Thank you so much. That was so much great information. I can speak for Ryan here at TR Capital Partners. Right now, we have 464 units under management. And through that management and through the process of acquiring that, we require investors for a minimum of investments of $50,000 to sometimes as low as $25,000. But we understand that that's no small chunk of change. And believe it or not, the conversion of a 401k to a self-directed IRA is one of the more popular methods that investors utilize to invest in syndication. So we think it's an incredibly powerful tool. And Claudia, thank you so much for going over Horizon's process. We really appreciate that. But yeah, I definitely do have a few questions for you to go over real quick. The first one is, so with Horizon Trust, what is the typical time frame that it takes for you to convert an investor's 401k to a self-directed IRA?
Yes, great question. So it usually takes 2 to 3 weeks, and that is from the time that we're doing the application. We are getting on the phone with the resigning custodian, and then we're accepting the funds over. Once we accept the funds over, then we will do the direction of investment. We have done it in as quickly as 1 week. It depends on the resigning custodian. Sometimes the resigning custodians just like to hold on to the funds a little more than we would like them to, but it typically takes 2 to 3 weeks from the time that we start the process to the time that you're making money, because the interest payments are starting with your investment funds.
Perfect. Awesome. And could you talk a little bit about the owner of Horizon and how you guys came to be? Because I think that story is so awesome.
Yeah. So our owner, Greg Herline, he started this trust company about 13, 14 years ago. And what happened is he is a real estate guy, and he was just looking for funds. He's the kind of person that would get funds from private money lenders. And what he found is that this vehicle was a great vehicle for people to do the promissory notes. They can go ahead and lend funds from the IRA. They lend it to him. He has it for 60 days. He pays them back, and he pays them a percentage of whatever the interest payment was. So, but what he found is that a lot of these custodians just are really, really slow at doing the process. It was taking a long time, and he was losing deals, and he was just not getting to where he wanted to get. So he said, I'm going to just set up my own trust company. And that's how Horizon Trust was born. He basically did it for himself so that he can kind of have qualified funds, and that he could have access to all of his friends and family that he needed to have IRA funds anyways for. And then it just turned into this company, and he ran it very, very small for a long time. And 3 years ago, when I started, right after COVID, he just decided that he wanted to kind of scale it and put some money into marketing and kind of do that. But he always kept the whole, hey, I need customers to be at the forefront. Customer service is very important to me, the customer experience. So if you go on Google, we have a lot of great testimonials, Trustpilot. So we really take care of our clients. We're more of a hand-holding kind of custodian, which you won't see very often because custodians are just, I don't know why. I've heard it from a lot of investment companies, and I don't know why they just don't really have great customer service sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so powerful, though. I mean, Ryan and I, we've talked to dozens of custodians, and none of them have come close to the timeline that Horizon presents for investors compared to what they can, right? I mean, being able to convert that quickly is so important for not only the investor, but also for the syndicators, right? People who are trying to acquire the property, funds need to be quick. So I think that's really awesome and a wonderful reason why somebody would start a business.
Yeah.
And so going off of that, so what are some of the advantages of using a self-directed IRA for real estate investing and in particular for syndications?
Yeah, so the advantage would be that you're not paying any taxes when you make any interest on that money. If it's tax deferred, you're not paying any taxes until you take the money out when you're of age, and at that point you would be at a smaller tax bracket, mostly because you're either not working or you kind of slowed down your life, so you're not going to be at a higher tax bracket. So you're saving all that taxes. If you have a Roth IRA, which means that you already paid the government taxes, any interest that you're making with the syndication deal, you're not going to be paid taxes at all, ever. Any Roth funds that are in a Roth IRA will never pay taxes. You pay taxes at the beginning when the funds got there, and after that, it grows tax-free for the remainder of the account. So syndication deals are definitely the most popular between our clients, just because they get to park their money somewhere. They already did their due diligence. They trust the company. They put, $100,000 in there, and they're just getting interest into their IRA, growing it. And they don't really have to look at it every day. It's not something that they're going to be really like researching or, oh, what's the next stock that I'm going to put my money into? It's something that they can just do, and 15, whatever the percentage is in interest, they just grow it that way.
Beautiful. Now, I know you touched on it briefly, but could you go over more of the other investments, specifically real estate investments that can be made with an IRA?
Yeah, so the most popular ones that we see are promissory notes. So if you lend somebody $30,000, they promise to pay you back within 6 months. In those 6 months, they're going to be paying your IRA interest. Then you can go ahead and direct your funds that way. In the promissory note, it's going to be the IRA that's the owner of, or the lender of the money. The borrower would be whoever you send it to. So promissory notes are huge ones. A lot of people buy properties as well. So passive income, they buy a rental and they keep it in the name of the IRA. If they don't have enough to go ahead and buy a property outright, then they partner up with other people's IRAs, or they do non-recourse lending options. So what that means is that there are banks that you don't have to have your personal guarantee on it. They will be the first to guarantee the property, and then if anything happens, then they'll take the property. So it'll be the IRA and then the non-recourse lender as the borrower. What else? A promissory note, syndication deals. Obviously, we've talked about that a lot. Syndication deals is a lot of people do those because it's just a way to, like I said, park your money. What else? A lot of LLCs. A lot of people buy into LLCs. So they'll put, $30,000 from one IRA, and then they'll put $30,000 from another IRA or another person's IRA into one LLC. And from there, they'll do investing that way if they need a large chunk of money. But yeah, those are the most popular ones that I can think of for real estate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, we've talked about self-directed IRAs and what they are and how they work, but could you dive into more of like how the process of investing in a real estate syndication works through that self-directed IRA?
So how we would put the money from here to the syndication?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we would do it is once we have the funds here from the other custodian, then you, the client, would do a direction of investment, it's called. It's basically an internal form saying, I am the owner of this IRA. I am sending $100,000 to this syndication company. And then we would review it. We would have we have to have supporting documentation, which we would probably review before, because most investment companies send that before they even send clients over. It's usually a PPM. What are your supporting documents? Do you know? It's a PPM.
Yep.
Yeah. So we would review the PPM paperwork, and then we would call you, do a verbal verification, say, hey, Wayne, you wanted to go ahead and send $100,000 over to this investment company. Is that okay? Yes. And then we would wire the money over. So total time would be 24 to 48 hours, as long as we have all the supporting documents that are correct.
There's that awesome timeline again. We love it. Now, since you deal with this daily, I'm sure this is something you're pretty familiar with, but as an investor, what due diligence should you conduct before you invest in a syndication through a self-directed IRA?
Yeah, well, what other people have done or other investors have done, just make sure that you are talking to the investment company, that you're comfortable with them, that they were referred by somebody that is trustworthy. Due diligence, I would take. Some people take the PPM paperwork and maybe give it to an attorney, see if it all looks correct. Those are all things that people can do due diligence wise.
Perfect. All right. And then how do you guys support investors who want to use their self-directed IRAs for these syndications?
Yeah, so we actually have a department that would get on the phone with you and go over the direction of investment paperwork. They would actually tell you what you need to fill out, what paperwork we need, make sure that you are signing it correctly. At that point, we would receive that paperwork along with the PPM. We work with investment companies. That department works with investment companies to make sure that we get the information before the client is even ready to start the process. And then after that, we would do the verbal verification. So we do the process from the beginning to the end.
No, you got to press launch.
Thank you, Claudia. And then to wrap it up, we've heard so many great things right now. Could you share some success stories or any case studies of investors who have actually used their self-directed IRAs to invest in a syndication?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the syndication slide. I will put it on here one more time, just so that you guys can see what the interest is, depending on what the terms are for that syndication. So in this example, this is $100,000 example for 5 years. It is a hold period of 5 years, and then there's a hold period of 10 years. And it's a 15% annual rate of return for each of them. You are saving 30% on taxes because you're not paying taxes. On one, it would be never. And then the other one, if it is an IRA, you'll pay taxes later. And your profit would be $101,000. And then in the 10 years, it would be $304,000. So it's definitely a great investment. It's something that you don't really have to think about that much during the investment period. You kind of put it in there and forget about it, and your retirement account grows that way.
Yeah, I would definitely chalk that up as a success story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Claudia, thank you so much for all this amazing information. Those sum up the questions that I had. At this point, we'd like to open up to you guys. If anybody here has any questions, feel free to ask. This is a good opportunity for us to go over anything that may be, on the top of your mind that we'd love to answer for you guys.
Hey, Claudia, what is the cost for the account? Like there might be fees associated with opening this custodial account.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on how much money you're transferring over. So our fee schedule is a point system. The more you have, the less you're going to pay in fees, but it's anywhere from 0.004 to 1%. It just depends on how much you have. So typically you're going to be paying about $400 in annual fees. That does include all transactions though. So other custodians will go ahead and have just nickel and dime kind of transaction fees. So they'll have like wire fees, check fees, they'll have asset fees. So if you have 3 assets, they'll charge you per asset. They'll have quarterly fees. So there's all sorts of fees that can be in a fee schedule. We're all inclusive kind of fee schedule. So you're only going to have one fee at the beginning of the year once you go ahead and set up your account, and that's all you have for the year.
That was a great question to me. Thanks for asking. Does anybody else have any questions that we could go over?
Yeah, I mean, I have more other people, so maybe other people have similar questions.
I mean, fire them off. We love it. Let's go.
No, I mean, so the next question I had, if you had a checkbook LLC, Claudia, and presumably I can buy a property, does that LLC has to be the sole owner of a rental property, or can there be two? I mean, I technically there can be two LLCs owning a property, but is that custodial have to be the only one for IRS requirements?
That's a great question. No, you can have other LLCs. At the point that the LLC is born and you have your funds in there, you can go ahead and partner up with other LLCs. What you can't do is go into an LLC that is owned by anybody in your linear heritage. So nobody, your mom, your dad, your grandpa, grandfather, kids, grandkids. Your brothers, sisters, yes, but anybody in your linear heritage, you cannot mix funds or IRA funds with them. So, but you can have 3, 4 LLCs go into one property, and then when you have profits from that property or any rental income, you would just divide it depending on how much percentage each of the LLCs came in with.
Could be another owner. Could they be a spouse? I know there's no linear relationship, but could they be a spouse?
They cannot be a spouse.
But the other alternatives, you're the owner of both LLCs. One is a IRA, and the other one is yourself. Could you do that?
So you wouldn't be able to mix funds with personal funds and IRA funds either. So what you could do is if you have IRA funds with you and your spouse, then you guys can go ahead and go and do an LLC together, and then the percentages would be split that way. But you can't mix your own funds with personal funds into a deal.
Got it. So like your funds have to be sourced from the IRA itself. Others people's funds could be sourced however they want, and they could create their own LLC and go that way. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
And then, sorry, but the syndications one, for the syndications as well, would it be better for you to create an LLC to send that to the syndication instead of your own personal name? Would that be better way?
It definitely is a way that our clients like, only because they can take the interest payments and redirect them or reinvest them as soon as they get them from the investment company. You can definitely do that. And then in the syndication, when it gets to Lucas or Ryan, they're going to name the investor as the LLC.
Is there a limit to the amount of profit you can make? For example, I'm just making up numbers. Let's say I invest 50,000. 3 years later, my rental property is now worth 300,000 at the time of sale. All of that goes into the IRA. There's no limit to an amount, right?
There isn't. There's an automatic audit from the IRS, and this was just a rule, I think, 2 years ago, if you make more than $10 million. So automatic audit. Other than that, no, there are no rules. I mean, you're subject to audit just like everything else, but I've never seen an audit in the 3 years that I've been here. And if you're doing everything correctly, then an audit is just a way for you to be like, hey, here's my paperwork. Everything is qualified. I haven't done anything disqualified, and then it'll go away.
This is all good information. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
Yeah, Claudia, I just had one question regarding the syndication. Sometimes when deals go full cycle. Depending on the sponsor, they will do a 1031. And I didn't know if that was a possibility with the self-directed IRAs or how that works.
So I'm not too familiar with 1031 exchanges. I can definitely email me that question and I will send it to compliance and we'll get you an answer for sure. Do you have my email? I'll put it on the chat as well.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to do afterwards too, is send the replay with the summarized points, stuff like that, and then at the bottom I'm going to include Claudia's information, Horizon Trust's website, and then some stuff about them as well. So for all you guys, we obviously will have your email. You'll get all that information as well in case you can't save it here in the chat. So no worries there.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, I think that does it, right? So thank you everybody for joining the call. We really appreciate it. Claudia, thank you for taking time to go over your expertise, some incredibly valuable information that we just went over. So if you guys have other questions after this moving forward, Claudia's email is in the chat and you can reach out to Ryan or myself anytime. And we will see you guys all on the next webinar. So thank you guys so much for showing.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you for the invite. Bye.